Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer neuen Folge von Star Trek Resurgence. Wir sind momentan noch bei einem diplomatischen Treffen und jetzt werden bloß noch die ranghöchsten Diplomaten sich miteinander unterhalten. Ja, wir mussten uns leider in der letzten Folge für eine Seite entscheiden. Mal gucken, ob es richtig war oder nicht. Wir werden es sehen.
You make nice with the locals and see if you can get some answers. We need to find out why the Hotari are so willing to risk war. What happened in those mines?
Oh, sprich mit Mitgliedern der Fraktion. Ach, darf ich jetzt mal rumlaufen hier? Muss mal kurz gucken. Aber ich muss mal diese. Musst du doch nicht niesen. Oh, was ist das denn? Wasser.
Soothing.
Ja. Doch schon sehr, ne? Gibt's denn hier noch irgendwas anderes? Kann ich hier mit denen hier auch gleich mit Hotari-Leuten reden? Yo, Bro.
The captain and ambassador have it handled. I've got my own mission.
Ja, okay. Ah ja, bloß ein Versuch wert. Kann ja sein, dass wir hätten was gesehen oder so. Du so? Ja, gibt nicht viel zu sehen außer Nebel, wa? Guten Tag. Zidron.
Commander, after hearing so much about the Federation's sense of fairness and justice, I was surprised that you sided with the Illydians. In all honesty, I expected more, especially from someone like you.
To be clear, I'm not on either side of this conflict. Our only interest is peace.
On the Illydians' terms, apparently.
I assume you were there the day the mines were seized from the Illydians.
Not seized. Reclaimed. And restored to their rightful owners. Yes, I was there. We had to be decisive. Before the Illydians could even realize their worst nightmares upon them.
Were the Hotari miners armed during the revolt? I'm just trying to understand how it happened.
If by that you mean armed with centuries of abuse and exploitation at the hands of the Illydians, then yes.
Which doesn't really answer my question.
We had them vastly overwhelmed from the start. They respect one thing above all else, and that is force. The greater the force, the more certain the outcome. Any talk of making peace is just that, and worth little without the strength to secure it. Which makes me wonder about your ship, the Resolute. Undoubtedly the Federation's finest warship. Ready to contend with anything the Illydians might have in store. Or is that not true? Maybe I've misjudged it.
No need to worry. Even in a worst-case scenario, the fleet is always within reach.
But it would probably take them quite some time to get here.
Maybe. Or we might have other ships in the sector.
Of course.
Sidron.
A pleasure meeting you, Commander. I'm sure we'll cross paths again.
Hoffentlich nicht im Negativen, ne? Und ihr beide macht Stein, Schere, Papier oder? Nö, okay.
Commander Rydek,
Na, Tylers.
I have to admit, I was surprised when you said the Illydians should control the dilithium trade. I was under the assumption the Federation was neutral. But maybe I was wrong.
I can assure you, we aren't on anyone's side. We are and will remain completely
Ja,
neutral.
das ist jedenfalls meine
You
Absicht.
have my word.
I hope that's true. For all of our sakes. I saw you speaking with Sidron, our national hero. I'm curious, what did he say?
He seems to be of the opinion that negotiating for peace is a waste of time.
Because force is the only blunt instrument he understands. he's a miner, not a diplomat. For the first time in our history, the Hotari have the upper hand. We see ourselves as strong instead of downtrodden. New voices have risen up. Old voices shouted down. Galvin and Sidron have become national heroes. Now they have the Queen's ear. Better or worse, depending on your perspective.
I take it they're against a negotiated peace with the Illydians.
Heroes tend to want more of what made them heroic. If it were up to them, they'd wage all-out war and bring ruin upon us all. My fear has been that the Illydians will launch an attack and crush us. You've seen their starship, no doubt. They could have retaken the mines whenever they wanted to, but it never happened. And as strange as this may sound, I'd almost say they're afraid. I just don't know what they're afraid of. It's still the same bluster and bravado you would expect from them. But it has no teeth. Like they're afraid of what might happen.
Gute Frage. Vor dem Ionensturm? Boah, Föderation nicht, Gavan.
Do you think it has something to do with the ion storm? Right now, it's stronger than ever, isn't it?
It's entirely possible. I'm not a scientist, but I do know the storm has knocked out all kinds of systems. So maybe the Illydians weren't willing to risk their ships, given all the interference. Since the day of the revolt, Galvin has seized control of the mines and restricted all access. No one's allowed without his personal authorization. And they've taken over a section of the palace with just as much secrecy and security. I'm told it could be something they brought back from the mines. I've made inquiries, but everyone pretends it doesn't exist. I strongly suspect they're hiding something.
What do you think it is?
I've heard rumors it's some sort of ancient artifact, but I haven't seen it myself.
How can we know?
I'd better see what's happening.
Do you think you can find out what they're hiding? I need to see proof of something before I can make my case to the Federation.
I can try, but even if I found it, I might not know what to make of it.
Take this. You can use it to capture whatever you find, and then send it to me.
Thank you. I will let you know what I find. And I look forward to our meeting again.
Schön.
Sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but I couldn't help but notice you were speaking with the Hotari this whole time. I figured it might be useful if I offered another perspective.
Of course.
I have to say, I fully expected you to side with the Hotari, but obviously the Federation wants a steady supply of dilithium, something only we can offer. Without Illydian involvement, there is no dilithium trade. Left to the Hotari, it would be nothing short of a disaster.
We're not on either side. Our only interest is the peaceful resolution to this conflict.
As is ours. Of course, the question is, at what price?
Tja, ist immer die Frage.
Major Salit Arminta, Special Attaché, Illydian Armed Forces. Pleasure to meet you, Commander. I have my issues with the Hotari, but I have to give them some credit. They know how to seize an opportunity. Inciting an uprising the same day as a massive, once-in-a-lifetime ion storm.
Our assumption was that this storm was just an anomaly.
Yes, a very convenient anomaly. At least that was what we were told. Of course, I wasn't there. But who am I to say otherwise?
Something tells me there's more to the story. So what really happened?
Well, the official story is that it was the storm that enabled the revolt. How else do a bunch of unarmed, unorganized miners seize control of an entire moon, much less thousands of mines? But I've talked to people who were there. They tell a different story. They say they're lucky to have escaped with their lives, that it was more than just the storm, that somehow the miners were able to harness the energy from the storm.
Aha.
I know it sounds crazy. I'm not even sure I believe it myself. But that's what they said.
You said the Hotari were primitive,
Well, they are.
except for the part about weaponizing ion storms.
Das ist merkwürdig, ja.
If you'll excuse me, Commander Ryder.
Warum müssen immer alle gehen, mit denen ich mich unterhalte? Ich berichte hier noch gar nicht. Wir gucken, ob ich hier noch irgendwen anschubsen kann oder so. Ihr beiden kleinen turtelt hier in der Ecke, oder was? Komm ich hier hinten noch irgendwo hin? Nö. Eindeutig nicht, nein. Es ist nicht mehr neuester Stand der Technik hier, finde ich, die Grafik, aber ich finde, es sieht trotzdem noch akzeptabel aus, ne? Sieht, denke ich,
They
ganz gut
seem
aus.
proud of their culture. Pride can lead to rash action.
Hier noch irgendwas? Ich gar nicht, dass ich mir die Dinger da oben auch angucken kann. Hier, irgendwo Spionagekameras oder so. Ist aber auch krass, wie nah der Mond dran ist, ne?
Such rough terrain. No wonder the Hotari are so tough. That must be Tau,
Ja.
the place it all started. An Elydian warship, the Zeldi. They must want the Hotari to know they can use it at any time. But why haven't they?
Mal gucken, ob ich hier noch ein bisschen schneller machen kann, meine Maus. Zu schnell. Warte. Na, so geht's. Mal kurz gucken, ob wir hier noch irgendwas sehen. Können wir hier noch irgendwas anderes sehen? Nö. Das ist das Einzige, was mich so ein bisschen stört. Das ist hier wirklich die Mausempfindlichkeit, also die Sensibilität hier. Vor allem, wenn du dann auch hier teilweise dir Dinge aussuchst in den Menüs, wie mit den Werkzeugen oder sowas. Musst du übelst rudern.
Well, that was a disaster.
What happened?
The Hotari refused to concede anything, so the Elydians stormed out.
The Hotari did not invite us here as peacekeepers. I hope your efforts were more fruitful than ours.
Gravitational harmonics failing to resolve. Warp bubble stability degrading. Increase output to maximum.
Increasing warp output to maximum.
It's happening again.
Instabilität vielleicht oder so.
Presently, the Resolute cannot achieve warp propulsion.
Since our diagnostics rule out any problems with our warp systems or anything about the ship, the problem appears to be the fabric of space itself.
Space itself? You're saying something about this region of space prevents warp travel?
Prevents it or can't sustain it.
However improbable, that appears to be the case.
We need to know more.
Otherwise, it'll be an extended stay in the Hotari system.
Well, couldn't we slowboat it out of here at impulse speed?
It may come to that, but we don't know how far this warp dead zone extends. Captain Solano is on his way back from the negotiations, and I want to have some answers for him when he gets here.
Indeed. Given the facts at hand, we may be able to deploy subspace probes around the ship to construct a clearer picture of the phenomenon.
Around the ship. I'll prep a shuttle.
Die Wissensmethode. Wissenschaft, die Wissenschaft. Die sehen so ein bisschen aus wie die Jumper bei Stargate Atlantis von außen. Was? Fliege das Shuttle bis zu deinem Ziel, um eine Mission zu erfüllen. Benutze W für vorwärts, D um rückwärts. Was? D? Achso, nee, was? Wie blöd ist das denn? W für vorwärts, ja? Und D, um rückwärts zu fliegen. Das finde ich ja schon wieder blöd. Benutze Maus, um dich umzudrehen. Benutze Q, um hoch zu fliegen. E, um runter zu fliegen. Der Sturm drückt deinen Shuttle zur Seite. Behalte deinen Kurs bei. Okay. So, Impuls. Rückwärts. Siehst du, jetzt steht S da. Aber ich kann schießen? Noch nicht, wa?
Commander Westbrook, the Resolute systems are calibrated to receive the probe's readings. We are standing by to reproduce the warp field collapse after the first probe is deployed.
Thank you, Mr. Chovak. We'll be in position shortly.
And, Mr. Diaz, do take care in piloting the shuttlecraft. Now is not the time to indulge in the human penchant for joyriding.
Ja.
Chovak probably isn't such a fun guy to work for, huh?
Muss mal gucken, ob wir irgendwas anderes sehen. Ich nehme das nicht persönlich.
I just don't take it personally. At least I try not to.
That's a very mature answer. Shows a positive attitude on your part.
Immer drunter durchfliegen, darf ich nicht, wa?
Complaining to you about the ship's new first officer.
So, wir passieren gleich den ersten Kometen. Oder Wegpunkt. Wir wenden oder ändern die Fahrtrichtung.
Transporting the first probe into position.
Aussieht wie nicht so ein Preis, den auf der für die beste Lied des Jahres oder besten Song des Jahres kriegst.
Problem? I just can't get a handle on her. Commander Rydek. She rejected my plan to use a deflector pulse against the storm surge. But on the other, she did listen to my advice and use the whole polarity trick to get you through that excursion alive. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the new XO. I'm sure she's a fine officer, even if we don't see eye to eye. But she didn't go through what the rest of us did. You know that. And it's hard to figure out why she'd be the one Solano chose instead of, well, one of us.
Geben Sie eine Chance.
I've heard some good things. You should at least give her a chance.
I'll take that under advisement.
Test is running. Warp field collapse in 3, 2, 1, mark.
Was war das? War das ein getarntes Schiff?
All right, that is definitely a problem with the fabric of space. We need to get another probe out there.
Oh, wie heißen die? Nicht Borg, sondern die Klingonen? Das Klingonen?
Resolute in the probe. We've managed to get an interference pattern. I'm setting a waypoint to a particularly strong area of interference. We'll deploy the second probe there.
Das war doch bestimmt Klingonen, oder?
Listen, I'm gonna give you a piece of advice I wish someone had given me.
Oh.
Make sure you're never just one thing. And don't get so focused on what's in front of your face that you lose sight of the big picture. Before Rydek showed up, the captain pulled me into his ready room and told me he didn't think I had the people skills to be first officer. What a load of crap.
Oh, was?
I mean, if he'd said that about Chovak, sure.
I appreciate the advice, Commander. I'll make sure I keep my options open.
Wie gesagt, die Klingonen, die konnten doch ihre Flying Birds oder wie die Dinger heißen, die konnten die doch tarnen. Und das sah gerade aus, als wenn das gerade sich die Tarnung von irgendwas auflösen wollte von dem Schiff.
Hell, Admiral Jellicoe started as a shuttle pilot. And there are places to go in the enlisted ranks too.
Können Sie mir eine Beförderung vermitteln? Aha.
I love it. So put me up for promotion. I'm ready for my next challenge.
Well, I think you're going to have to prove that to your boss, Chovak, first. He's the one who has to put you up for consideration. If I were first officer, it would be different.
Well, then I'll just have to change Commander Chovak's mind. I'll work hard and better, and he won't be able to ignore it.
You've got grit.
Ja, nicht irgendwas muss doch hier noch sein, oder? Ist hier noch irgendwas entdecken können? Warum ich kann schießen, also ich darf offiziell schießen laut Tasten, aber machen kann ich es noch nicht. Ich würde einfach mal ein Torpedo schießen oder so.
Stop the engines.
Ich stoppe, so wie ich noch nie gestoppt habe. Mach Stopptanz.
Westbrook to Commander Chovak, we're ready for another sampling of data.
Very good. Running the simulation again. Warp field collapse in 3, 2, 1. Mark.
Whoa.
There it is again.
I saw it. It seems to be directional.
Well, what about the scans? Anything?
Here's the readings in relation to our local space. We've got the Resolute, Otari Prime, and the probes.
All this interference is overloading the sensor buffers. We're gonna have to triangulate the sensors manually.
Finde Interferenzen? Hier. Da.
We got something.
These markers indicate peaks in the gravimetric interference patterns.
Let's see if I can find some more.
Ja, will ich ja gerade gucken.
Hold up. This is coming from the moon.
A beam that blocks warp travel.
Aimed right at us.
Someone is doing this intentionally. I don't know how they're doing it. This is like nothing I've ever seen.
Why would they be doing this? We came here to help these people.
Das ist eine gute Frage.
And now we're getting hit by some warp-killing weapon?
Now, look here. It's current readings of the ion storm.
These concentrations, they line up with the interference pattern. The storm and this beam, they're coming from the same place.
Carter, whatever petty local conflict brought us here, it's just a small part of something much bigger.
Oh oh. Doch die Hotari, wa?
Presently, we don't have an explanation for how they're doing this. One thing is clear. This is no fluke.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. I want a full briefing when I'm back on board. Solano out. A targeted weapon that inhibits warp travel. Coming from the moon Tau.
That would explain the difficulties my shuttle encountered. More importantly, the tenor of the Hotari during the negotiations.
And here I thought the Elydians would be the problem. Coming to peace talks in a warship. This wasn't supposed to be so complicated.
I don't know why the Hotari wanted us here, but it wasn't to negotiate.
Clearly, peace is not their intention.
Then what is? Why go through this charade?
Tylus, the Hotari representative, said she thought they found something in the mines. Galvin and Sidron brought it back to the palace, but they're keeping it under tight security. She's going to investigate it. I gave her my tricorder. I expect she'll contact us soon.
You found an ally.
Why would Tylus help us? Go behind her people's back? It's a fair question, considering.
Ich will die Bin stoppen.
She doesn't like the way Galvin and Sidron have been manipulating the situation. And the Queen. Working with us to go around them isn't the same as betraying her people.
That may be true.
She's certainly more likely to help than the other Hotari we've met.
That raises another question. Specifically, what do the other Hotari have to gain in bringing us here, only to make this hostile maneuver against us? There must be some motivation.
Unless they changed their minds between when they asked and when we got here.
That's the thing. It doesn't make sense to bring us here. Tylus said that Galvin and Sidron have restricted access to the mines, even to the Hotari. So they don't want anybody to learn what they've found.
Then calling in the Federation is a funny way of going about it. I don't think the Elydians know what's really down on that moon either.
Major Armintus said the revolt defied explanation. That the Hotari miners somehow harness the energy of the storm.
Harness the energy of the storm?
Doing that is beyond even our capabilities.
So is a weapon that disrupts warp travel.
There have been civilizations and entities, both past and present, far more technologically advanced than the Federation.
The Elydians and Hotari don't fall into that category.
But that is all the more reason to investigate further.
Commander Rydek, sorry to interrupt.
Haben sie vielleicht wirklich was gefunden, was weiterentwickelter ist als deren Technologie?
Put her through.
Galvin and Sidron are still with the Queen. I've enlisted help to gain access to the room they have under guard. I don't have much time.
I'm not supposed to leave my post.
It's only for a moment. I so appreciate your help.
I found something. I'm sending you a scan.
Aha.
Got it. Tylus, if we needed to gain access to the mines on Tau, is that something you could help us with?
I suppose it wouldn't be easy, but I have to go.
Tylus.
Immerhin.
Reconnect.
Nope.
Sorry, Captain. We've lost all contact.
We can only hope she escaped without harm.
It was hard to tell.
Ich hoffe auch. Ich habe dieses Schlamassel eingebaut. Wir müssen ihr helfen.
I'm the one who got her into this. If something happens to her, it's my fault.
She's one of the Queen's closest advisors. I'm sure she'll be fine. Assuming the Queen isn't part of this. Let's see the scan of whatever the hell that was.
Tja, zeige Mann, was ist das?
Tylus suspects this came from the mines on Tau.
It appears to be of ancient origin, but the markings are unfamiliar.
We can run a full analysis when we get back to the Resolute. But if this came from the mines, then it might be the key to how they got the upper hand against the Elydians.
Then we have to go into the mines.
The Federation would not allow that. We were, after all, sent here to be a neutral party in a peace negotiation. However, we could demonstrate that the Hotari have acted in bad faith, which would enable us to investigate the mines on Tau with full justification. But of course, we would need conclusive proof before taking action. Otherwise, it could put us in a difficult position.
Whatever this artifact is may be proof enough. At least to satisfy the Federation.
Especially if we can show the Hotari are controlling the warp disruption. And targeting the Resolute.
We may have a better understanding once we analyze the device. But a mission to the mines, covert or otherwise, is not out of the question. And I will handle the Federation.
Das ist sehr nett von Ihnen, Botschafter Spock. Ja, aber das war's dann für heute mit Star Trek Resurgence. Wenn es euch gefallen hat, lasst mir doch einen Daumen nach oben und ein Abo da, wenn ihr es nicht schon gemacht habt. Schreibt mir in die Kommentare, wie ihr das Spiel findet. Habt ihr es selber schon gespielt? Ja. Und lasst mir doch gerne ein Abo da, wenn ihr es nicht schon getan habt. Haut rein. Bis zum nächsten Mal.